Good evening and welcome to the Metropolitan Council Environmental Services Open House on the Shorewood Excelsior Lift Station 20 project. I'm Dan Pfeiffer with WSB, an engineering and design consulting firm supporting the Metropolitan Council Environmental Services in project communications. You'll hear us use the acronym MCES in referring to this division of the Metropolitan Council. Before we begin our meeting tonight, we'd like to acknowledge any local officials who might be in attendance. If we have any city staff or elected officials in the audience, if you could hit your raise the hand function so that we can recognize you. I know on the panelist side, we have Morgan Dolly, the city engineer for City of Excelsior, and Tim Amundsen, Public Works Director for the City of Excelsior. See, now I'm going to continue on. Before we begin, I want to walk through a few technical process items. Although attendees are muted, you can submit questions and comments throughout the presentation using the Q&A function. So that will be on the control panel. You'll see a Q&A with two kind of chat bubbles. Please include your name and address and any organization you represent, if any, with your question. You can submit those during the presentation. We will take questions and provide answers after the presentation. If you'd like to ask your question during the Q&A time after the presentation, you can also use the raise the hand function. And then I'll be able to call on you and give you the option to unmute so that you can address the panel and ask the question. If you're on your phone calling in tonight, use the *6 to signal that you would like to ask a question. It's the raise the hand function for in that environment. Phone users can also text your comments to 612-394-6037 or email them to info@excelsiorl20project.org. That info@excelsiorl20project.org is also our project email account. So after the meeting, if you have questions, send them there. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties with tonight's meeting, give me a call at 612-394-6037. Tonight, you'll hear from a few different project team members. Again, I'm Dan Pfeiffer with WSB, supporting the Metropolitan Council's project communications. Dan Fick is a project manager with Metropolitan Council Environmental Services, so he's leading the project. Tim Melody is a project manager with Stantec, the firm that's designing this project, and Morgan Dolly, the city engineer for Excelsior. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to summarize the construction and improvement plans, to show the locations and explain the work that will be done, discuss potential impacts you can anticipate during construction, and answer your questions. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dan Fick to provide some background on Metropolitan Council Environmental Services and tonight's project.
Well, thanks, Dan. Once again, my name is Dan Fick, and I am a project manager with Metropolitan Council Environmental Services. We'll just refer to that as MCES for brevity. I'd like to begin our presentation with a brief overview of the regional wastewater system, and then I'll talk about the improvements we are planning for the project in the Shorewood and Excelsior area. So the regional wastewater system is run by MCES, and it collects the wastewater from the local wastewater collection systems. And it's analogous to us being the freeway of a roadway system. So the map you're seeing shows the 7-county metro area, and it shows our service areas and our 9 regional treatment plants. The colored areas each different colored area represents a different service area and the flows in that service area goes to that treatment plant. Our system consists of approximately 640 miles of regional sanitary sewer pipes. We call them interceptors. And we call them that because they intercept the flow from the local systems and like I said, take them to our treatment plants. We also operate 61 pumping stations or lift stations, and we operate 190 meter stations. These 9 plants that are shown treat a combined flow of approximately 250 million gallons of wastewater each day, and they discharge the cleaned water into the Mississippi, Minnesota, and St. Croix rivers. The Lake Minnetonka service area, shown in blue, is the area that Excelsior and Shorewood are in. And the wastewater from this particular service area flows to the treatment plant we call the Blue Lake plant, which is in the city of Shakopee, just on the south side of the Minnesota River. It's important to remember that the Metropolitan Council's MCES primary role is to collect and treat the regional wastewaters as opposed to the local wastewater. So your individual cities each have a drinking water system, they have a local wastewater or sanitary sewer system, and they also operate storm sewer systems. So there's a lot of systems to keep in mind. So I just want to explain that a little bit. Hopefully it'll be clear. If anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. We're often asked at public meetings, how does MCS finance our projects? And the way we do that is we charge sewer user fees to the individual cities and townships that are our customers, and then within the cities and townships, the residents then are their customers. So we don't use tax dollars, we don't levy assessments, and that's because our projects tend to benefit larger areas that involve multiple communities. So our projects are paid for with regional dollars. Next slide, please. So next, I'd like to go over some terms that you will hear during the presentation tonight. I already talked about who MCES is and just that we are an operating division of the larger organization called the Metropolitan Council. Similar to how Metro Transit operates the bus system, we operate the regional wastewater system. So this regional wastewater system is basically, like I said, 640 miles of underground pipes that carry the wastewater or sewage, as it's also referred to, away from homes and buildings that the city systems collect. So each city has its own local system, and we then are the receiving system for the city systems. We call our sewers interceptor sewers, and that's just kind of it's almost like a technical term. It's just a way of differentiating a local system from a regional system. Lift stations are basically just pump stations that assist with the movement of the wastewater. If the wastewater is flowing by gravity through a gravity pipe and gets down to a low spot in the topography, we will oftentimes have a pump station that will then pump that water up and over a hill or some other obstacle that flow by gravity cannot get past. So because the flow is being pumped or forced through those pipes, we call the pipes force mains downstream, immediately downstream of our lift stations. And then finally, a meter station is a device that records the flow rate of the wastewater that's entering the MCES system. So this way we can differentiate and determine how much flow each individual community contributes. And then we can determine how to bill each community for those flows. So now that I've described the MCS system in general terms, I'd like to talk about the L20 project specifically. So as shown on the schedule, we are currently in between the June 21 and fall 21. So we're in the design phase. So once we complete design, then we will bid the project, and that'll be done in the fall of 2021. And we anticipate work to start in the spring of 2022. And we anticipate construction being completed sometime in 2023. The work will be split up and sequenced from street to street. So the entire length of the project is not going to be torn up for those 2 years. The work will sequence its way from one end to the other. So we can minimize unnecessary disruption that way. Next slide, please. The map on the right shows the locations of where the work will be occurring for the project. In short, the project consists of installing a new gravity sewer pipe between 2 of our lift stations. And this will allow us to remove an old obsolete lift station L20 that's in the lower right in green there. And then the flow that normally goes to that lift station will flow through this new gravity pipe to lift station L19, which is in the upper left corner of that map. And by doing this, we can reduce electrical maintenance and operational costs, and also increase the reliability of our system because we don't have to rely on a mechanical system to pump the wastewater. So the corridor that the pipe will follow I'll start at the L19 end here. So it will start in Oak Street, and it will run down Oak Street until it gets to William Street. And this dotted blue line is meant to indicate the alignment of where this pipe is going to go. So you can see from William Street, it then goes to College Avenue. It follows College Avenue to Water Street, where it crosses Highway 7. And then once it crosses Highway 7, it runs on the south side of Highway 7 to that lift station in Galpin Lake Road. Once the new pipe is complete, then the old lift station and its force main, shown in that smaller solid blue line, those will be decommissioned and abandoned in place. Since this is a joint project with the city of Excelsior, in addition to the MCES gravity sewer pipe improvements, other improvements will be made to the city streets, city water main, city sewer, and storm sewer. We will also be reconstructing William Street between Oak Street and George, and that is that offshoot of red dash line you see on William Street that aims toward George Street. And then we will also be repaving Grothwall Lane, which is the other little extension of red dashed line. Next slide, please. So I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague, Tom Melody, who is the design engineer for the project, and he will talk about the different construction phases for the project.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. This is Tom Melody from Stantec. The project is broken into 6 phases, and we show the 6 phases on this plan. So each phase will have several passes through the roadway, like there'll be roadway removal, the bituminous, then they'll install the deep sanitary sewer, then the water main, and then the storm sewer, and then roadway grade and pavement, new curb and gutter, new sidewalk, and then grass seed and sod. Can you go to the next slide? Excuse me, hold on, wait a second. So the construction impacts that we see are for Oak Street is access in and out driveways will be restricted during 7:30 to 7 p.m. while work occur in this area. And then we temporary mailboxes that the contractor will install for delivery of mail. And then the contractor will coordinate with the residents on the garbage bins pickup for the garbage haulers. And then if you have any specific access needs, like metro mobility, or you have a business or you work the second shift, just let us know and we can work on getting on-street parking areas and coordinate with the contractor. This is phase one. This is Oak Street. We'll be installing sanitary sewer down the middle of the road. We'll have 1 lane of traffic on each side. And when we get to the intersection of William and Oak, that'll be nighttime work. We'll maintain 1 lane of traffic during that phase. And the nighttime work will be from 7 p.m. to 7:30. Next slide. Phase 2 is William Street from George to Oak, and then also from Oak to College. This is also street reconstruction and utility work in this area. Next slide. Phase 3 is College Avenue from William to Water. We'll be installing utilities and reconstructing the road. And then also Groffel Lane, which will be doing street reconstruction. Doing Groffel Lane, we'll have to coordinate with the residents to gain access to their driveways. We'll work with the contractor on that part. Next. Phase 4 is Water Street from Oak to Academy. This is utility work and street reconstruction. Next slide. Phase 5 is when we tunnel underneath the Highway 7, we'll close the ramps from Highway 7 to Water Street. And we'll install the Met Council interceptor underneath Highway 7. This will be a tunnel work. Next phase. Phase 6 is along the south side of Highway 7 to Gaplin Lake Road. And we'll be installing interceptor there. So Gaplin Lake Road will be closed at the intersection of Highway 7, and the right turn lane will be closed at Highway 7. We also will be working on abandonment of the underground force main that goes to the back of Excelsior Elementary School. Next slide. Project highlights. On College Avenue, we'll be installing the bituminous ped walking path along College Pond. That'll be on College Avenue, and then we'll be preserving the oak trees on the north side of College Avenue. Water Street, we continue the ped ramp from College Avenue along College Pond, and then we'll be installing some trees to block the headlight glare from the driveways that face to Pleasant Street across College Pond. And then Highway 7 is the tunnel we talked about. And then Oak Street, we'll maintain two-way traffic during day hours. And then the anticipated nighttime work at William Street and Oak Street will be from 7 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. We'll just have one lane of traffic. These are design plans of each of the locations. So this first one is Oak Street and William Street. So you can see in the yellow is the bituminous and the interceptor. The blue is the water main, and then you see the purple is the sanitary sewer. On the lower view is William Street. So you can see that we'll be doing some sanitary sewer work on that on William Street. and some water main on the William Street to the south of Oak, and new street construction. Next slide. This is College Avenue from Glencoe all the way to Water Street. You'll see that we're doing sanitary sewer, some water main, some storm sewer, and then you see the bituminous path on the south side of College Avenue along College Pond, that gray shaded area. And then if you look up top, you'll see Grothall Lane. The red outline is a new bituminous reconstruction for that Grothall Lane. And now we look at Water Street from Oak to Academy. You'll see street reconstruction, new sanitary sewers, some new water main, redoing the storm sewer. We go in front of the Water's Edge facility to Academy. And then the yellow line going towards Highway 7 is the cross Highway 7. Next slide. Yeah, this shows the crossing Highway 7. This will be at the tunnel, no open cut across Highway 7. And we'll reconstruct the ramps to Water Street from Highway 7. And then we go all the way up to Capitol Lane Road with the new Met Council interceptor. And that black dash is where L20 lift station is. That will been in place. And next slide shows the dark dashed line is the existing force main that will be abandoned underground, filled with flowable fill. And that's a picture of the Excelsior Elementary School in the background.
Well, thanks, Tom. So as shown on the schedule, you can see the next steps here. We'll be bidding the project in the fall. So you won't hear too much about the project until sometime early in 2022. And once we have a contractor who's been awarded the project, we will send out another mailing and reconnect with the area around the project, let them know that the construction is happening, and then we will go through the construction over those next 2 years, as Tom illustrated in his different slides. And we show it being finished in 2024, but what that allows for is there's usually turf restoration and just making sure all the grass is alive and things like that. So in 2024, we're not anticipating a lot of construction work that would impact the neighborhood. Really, it's more giving us a little flexibility should the weather be adverse to construction, and then also allows us to make sure the turf is well established before we let the contractor off of the job and make sure everyone's yards look the way they should.
So thank you, Dan and Tom, for your presentations. Before we go and open it up to questions, I want to encourage everyone to stay informed about the project. You can sign up to receive project updates on the project website at metrocouncil.org/sewer construction /Excelsior L20. From there, you can sign up to receive project updates. You can also contact us via email at info@excelsiorl20project.org, or call us on our hotline at 952-737-4681 and leave us a voicemail, and project staff will get back to you with a response. And so next, I'm going to move into opening up to questions. You can submit questions in the Q&A box and I'll read them out loud for staff to answer. If you'd like to verbally ask your question, use your raise the hand function or *6 on phone and I'll call your name and I click a button. It allows you to unmute yourself and ask a question. You can also send in your questions to the info@Excelsior L20 project.org. So there are a couple questions that have been submitted in the Q&A and I'll read them out loud. Will William Street between George and Oak Street have new water main, sewer main, and rainwater drains installed during construction? Dan or Tom?
I can answer that question. This is Dan. So can we flip to the slide that shows that part of the project? Oops, too far. Okay, so in the right-hand portion, if you can just pan up a little bit so we can see the upper one. There we go. So to the right of this upper map, you can see the portion of William Street that the person asking the question is talking about. And the blue line indicates that there will be some water main work. And the purple line indicates there will be some storm sewer work. So the answer is yes, it'll be more than just pavement. We will also be doing some utility work in William Street between Oak and George there.
So the next question is, when do you anticipate beginning construction in 2022? Do we have a time frame?
Yeah, it sometimes depends upon how the bidding process goes and how long it takes to get the contract, get all the contracts signed and things. But typically what happens is there's a lot of work that's difficult to do while the ground is still frozen. So the work will begin in earnest when the frost restrictions and are off the roads, and that's usually about the same time the ice comes off the lake. So that's probably in April. There may be some mobilization and other minor work going on in maybe February or March. It's hard to guess at this point, but it is possible that you may see some activity during those earlier months of 2022.
Thank you. Will College Avenue be narrower due to the new walking path?
Tom, would you like to talk a little bit more about what the design changes and widths and things are on College?
Right, College Avenue, yeah, the existing driving surface will be narrower. Right now, we plan on having the new bituminous path, the back of it match the existing pavement. And then so that'll be 5-foot wide bituminous path, and we have curb and gutter. And then we have the roadway section. Let me just let me find out the width of that for you, just a second.
Yeah, Dan, if you can zoom in a little, I believe there are some dimensions on the drawing that may show the width of the pavement. I don't know if we can zoom in and make that any bigger or not.
Right. So from the new gutter to gutter curb, it'll be 20 feet wide.
Great. Thanks, Tom.
So the next question is, where will parking for residents who need to get in and out from our homes and driveways on Williams south of Oak be? Tom or Dan?
So it's Williams south of Oak, so that'll be the bottom view down there. So this will be during construction.
Correct.
Yeah, so they would probably so William will be under construction and college will be still open. So probably the locations for parking will be on Glencoe if they can't get access to their driveways. But the goal is to have access to driveways after each workday, so the resident can get back into their home. So that's the goal of the project, to coordinate with the contractor for that to happen.
And a lot of work will go around with working with the contractor to identify those locations and putting that out in communications to the residents, before construction starts on that roadway. So that's why we encourage everyone to sign up to receive updates, to submit, questions, send questions to the email. So we get your email address. So we have that so that we can reach out and schedule those and ensure that where parking will be if you normally don't leave your house at before work starts at the beginning of the day and are back before the end of the construction workday occurs. Next question is, our water and sewer in William are quite old. I'm not sure you succinctly described replacement of them.
Could you go to the William Street on the north side between George and Oak? No, it's the bottom view to the left. And pan over to the left. Yeah, okay. Yep, that's it right there. So so between George and Oak on William, we're going to replace the water main by pipe bursting it. And then the existing sanitary city line will be lined. And then there'll be just new storm sewer at that purple there at the intersection of near Oak Street. That purple will be the new storm sewer that will be replaced. On this part of William Street, we plan to keep the north curb line. That's the west curb line, and the sidewalk that's along the church. That'll stay in place, but the sidewalk on the east, on the bottom side, will be replaced. We'll try to match the existing back of sidewalk, and they'll have new curb and gutter on that side also. Let's see, on William Street between Oak and College, we'll be putting new water main in and new city sanitary sewer. And then also some new storm sewer at the intersection of William and Oak, that in purple there. And this on the street reconstruction will be new curb and gutter on both sides, and then new sidewalk on the bottom side, replacing that sidewalk.
Morgan, is there anything you would like to add to Tom's description?
Thanks, Dan. No, I think he described that accurately. Hopefully that was okay for Mr. Finch, but I certainly would encourage, if Mr. Finch or anyone else wants, more detail in terms of city utilities, either existing or the condition of them, or kind of some of the thought process that went into coordinating with the Met Council's engineers, in terms of collaborating and trying to determine what are the right city improvements to include in the project at this time. Certainly you can get in touch with me through the project hotline or through City Hall. Either way, I'd be happy to meet one-on-one, either myself or again with Tim from Public Works, who's in attendance here as well too. But I think Tom did describe it accurately. That's the intent and approach. And we're trying to save what we can that does have some life left in it, rather than just replacing it unnecessarily too early. But certainly there are some aging infrastructure issues on both sides of William there, and we're trying to pick them up and take care of them as best we can while we're going to be in the area, or while Met Council will be in the area. This is an opportunity to take advantage of some economies of scale, and rather than the city doing a smaller project on its own that might be more expensive on a per unit basis, there's a lot of value to be had with these types of collaborative efforts and approaches, with the city being a partner, I guess, with what the Met Council is already planning to do for their facilities. So that's all I'd have to add.
Thank you, Morgan. Next question is, with people working from home, how much water disruption can we expect?
This is Dan again. Typically when water main is replaced, there will be periods of service outage when the water service is connected to the new water main. Typically before we interrupt water service or sewer service, we'll let the residents know ahead of time that it's going to be coming, and then we try and limit the amount of time that outage takes place. If we have a long-term outage for, say, some major water main work, we would arrange to have a temporary water system installed. So that way a person wouldn't have to go a day or longer without water. We would ensure that they had water at least by the end of the day, and try to minimize the length of time that their water service would be stopped.
Thank you. What is the expected width of Water Street? Also, could you please explain planned loading zone updates to the waters?
Tom, would you like to speak to that?
Yep, let me so the width of water, so can you pan to the left a little bit, Dan? So from Water Street at Oak, we're not changing. We're doing a mill and overlay in that area just near Grothall Lane to Oak. And then in the red area, we're going to narrow down Water Street to College. And then from College to Academy, the width of the street is going to be 22 feet to the face of curb. And then if you can zoom in on the water's edge, that yeah, zoom in on the water's edge. Keep on going to the right. That red area, that's we have a truck loading area going to be installed as part of this project. We've worked at the city with Morgan on this, and we've also talked to the Water Senior Living Facility about this. So this is where they'll pull off with their trucks to unload items, so they won't be parking on the street. So that's where the new loading area will be for Water's Edge.
Thank you, Tom. Next question is for Morgan. How much will residents on William Street be assessed for this project?
Sure, thanks, Dan. So, and that's a really good question. We anticipated this was going to come up, and that is more of a city thing rather than a Met Council thing. So the city does have an assessment policy anytime streets are either reconstructed or rehabilitated in some fashion adjacent to private property that per the policy are benefiting from those improvements, and there's some nuances to that policy, but that policy has generally been in place with some minor modifications since about 2010, and all of the projects that residents have seen throughout the years since that time have had some version of special assessments, again, to benefiting properties that might be along or adjacent or have access to the improved roadway. And so while right now I can't give an answer in terms of what exactly the anticipated assessment might be for each property, that will have to be determined this summer with a little bit more in-depth work on behalf of the city. Now that the Met Council has finalized and firmed up the kind of the design and the approach and preparing some of the cost estimates, just as we did with past collaborative or cooperative projects with the Met Council and Excelsior. We will use that information to do some calculations and present some preliminary assessment numbers later in the summer. And that will all be made public and shared publicly as well too, with some separate engagement efforts that will be hosted just by the city, not necessarily with the Met Council in attendance, but we'll have further conversations revolving around this idea of special assessments for, again, properties that benefit from a reconstructed roadway. There are no assessments, I should mention, for any of the utility work. So the utilities are not included as a part of the city's assessment approach. It's only for the things that you see above ground. So roadways, curbs, if there are sidewalks, those things are included in that formula. And for residential properties, now it's a little bit different if you're a commercial property or an institutional property like a church or a school. But for residential properties, for single family residential specifically, the assessment policy is such that the assessments are only 15%, which is compared to other cities a very, very low rate. I guess I don't have an average number for you, but if anyone wants to reach out again after the meeting, I can maybe look at a few past projects to try to get a general sense of what it might be. But we will have more specific, although preliminary, but more specific again to each individual property that might be affected by the assessment policy later this summer. And again, there will be separate engagement or open house opportunities for residents to learn more about that. That would probably be by invite only for the properties that would be proposed to be assessed. I think for this meeting, the Met Council has cast a wider net to try to include more people. But again, the city's efforts in determining those preliminary assessment numbers later this summer, that would be just specific to the properties affected. So probably a smaller subset of the people that were invited to this meeting. But again, if you have questions specific about, you just want to pick my brain, hey, is my property qualify per the policy? Will I be assessed? What do we think of preliminary, just for planning purposes? Those are all totally legitimate questions that you can and should be able to ask at this time. You shouldn't have to wait all the way. I may not have the exact number, but I can probably get close. And I certainly encourage those questions either through the Met Council. They can get those questions to me. If I have some contact information to get back to you with either phone number or email address. But otherwise, that's what I can tell you right now. 15%. Again, compared to other cities, a pretty reasonable calculation for a new road. In a general sense, I guess, just to put it in context, again, not knowing exact numbers, but we see some of the assessment numbers for single family properties for some of the road reconstruction in town being, in some instances, less than it costs to put in a brand new residential driveway. So again, it's a fairly reasonable policy in terms of the calculation, but more to come on that. But if you want specific information about will I be assessed or might I not be for whatever reason, or sometimes people are wondering about corner lots, just reach out to me separately, either through the Met Council or individually through City Hall, and I'd be happy to help you.
Thank you, Morgan. So I have no more pending questions. It's in the Q&A function. Wondering if anyone else has any. If any of the other attendees will do kind of a final call for questions. If not, any of the panelists have anything else they would like to add that the attendees might benefit from?
Well, this is Dan. Not hearing any more questions. I just want to thank everybody for taking their time to attend our open house. We hope we've given you enough information to get questions in your head kind of figured out and ask those questions and get answers, please email us or call the hotline and send us any further questions. Feel free to reach out. We're happy to answer questions. And if you have any problems getting to the website, I know there's kind of a long address here for the project website where we will be posting information. Even during the meeting here, I can, if we want me to, I can share my screen and I can kind of point people how to find the project website just by navigating through the metrocouncil.org webpage if need be. So that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Dan. Yes, if you go on the metrocouncil.org website, in the search bar, you can type in Excelsior L20. You'll see a link to it. You can send us an email, info@excelsiorl20project.org, or call us on the hotline at 952-737-4681. If you call the hotline, please leave your name, number, and your question, and staff will call you back and to discuss it. If you have a question for Morgan and you don't have his contact information, you can send it to the hotline or email, and we'll make sure that it gets to Morgan for city questions. With that, thank you for participating in tonight's meeting, tonight's open house. And hopefully have a good night, hopefully a cool night. That's it. Sun starts to set. Thank you, everyone.